right, welcome to today's episode of Tomorrow's Leader, where we dive deep on all things leader related to leading yourself and leading others. I'm John Laurito, your host. Really excited. This is one of our very rare opportunities to do a live in-person interview. I'm here with Scott Wells. Scott, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Scott and I got a chance to meet not long ago through a mutual friend, and I was fascinated by his story, and that's why I've invited him on. I know you're going to love him, and I really appreciate your time today. So Scott, I just going to dive into it. I mean, you've done some pretty amazing things physically in your life, and you've I don't want to spoiler alert here, but your biggest accomplishment was you ran 100 miles in an ultra marathon. Is that what they call it, an ultra marathon?
Yeah, ultra marathon. Yeah.
Okay.
100 miles. I wouldn't say it was running, but it was on foot.
That's unreal. So before we get into that, because I want to talk about a lot of stuff, because that's just unbelievable to me. When did you get involved in running? When did you get bit by the bug?
Yeah. Well, it was when we moved to North Carolina, 2007. I just finished residency and came down here to work and just needed to get some physical activity. It was just spent all that time in school and then additional training at work. And, I needed an outlet.
Yeah.
And so at the time where we lived, our next door neighbor, she was a personal trainer and she was really into, running, and, she was going to do a triathlon. And so I was like, all right, that sounds good. And so I signed up and just got into running and biking, and it just caught the bug.
So it was a triathlon at first that really kind of motivated or got interested.
Yeah.
Now, did you know when you first started running, did you know you had kind of some really unique abilities? Because that's not an average person's capability to run and accomplish as much as you have. So
it can be.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. Starting running back then, I wasn't in great shape. I wasn't out of shape or anything. I mean, it wasn't like I had to lose a lot of weight or anything. So I was okay starting, but still, to run a mile was hard.
Was it really? When you started, so a mile was hard.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I had a 2-mile loop in the neighborhood, and that's what I would start with.
Yeah.
And then just kind of built from there.
Well, that's good to know. That gives me some hope. So I feel like somebody like yourself, you just you're wired, or you're built the way to run super long distances, but not the case for you.
No, not the case at all. I think running's hard. It's. I'd much rather be on a bike. That's easier for me. I still think running's difficult. Yeah.
So is your true passion biking? Yeah. Is that the thing that you would love to do?
Now it is. Yeah. I'd prefer to be on a mountain bike. Yeah.
So what was that? So you did your first triathlon, which was what? Was it a sprint or an Olympic, or what level?
Was it like a half iron?
Your first triathlon was a half iron. So for the audience that doesn't know what an Ironman is, or a half Ironman, why don't you explain that?
It's so a half Ironman is 1.2 mile swim, 70.3 mile bike, and then a half marathon, 13.1 mile run. And so full Ironman is twice that. So 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a full marathon, 26.2 miles.
Wow. So your first triathlon was a half Ironman. And what was that? How much training did you do for that? How long were you preparing?
Man, I forget how much I did for that one, but I probably spent several months. It was like a May race, a small one here in North Carolina. Down towards the coast at White Lake. Mm-hmm. And so I remember the first long ride I went out on was with this neighbor. I went with her and one of her friends, and we did maybe 40 miles one day on a bike ride. And I didn't really know what I was getting into that much. And so I'm riding along behind them, and probably pretty far behind them most of the way, trying to keep up. And then, maybe middle of the ride, we come to a stop sign, and they're like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "All right." And they're like, "Are you eating enough?" And I'm like, eating?
Like,
Am I supposed to be eating during
should I have a
this?
sandwich with me? Like
Yeah,
a hoagie?
I didn't know I was supposed to be taking in nutrition. I mean, I've got a water bottle with me. So, I limped home at the end of that ride. I was way back, dragging, coming in. I was like, wow, this is going to be hard.
So what are you supposed to eat during like a long ride like that? Is it the goo packets or is it like...
Yeah, people have various things, but I mean...
Something.
Gotta put something in even if it's just Gatorade or some sort of sports drink, you need to take in some calories if you're out there for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't really...
So 40-mile bike ride, how long is that taking you? A couple hours?
That day was probably 2.5 or 3, but most days it might be 2 hours.
So how much does nutrition, and actually 2 questions, nutrition during the race, how much does that play a part? And then how much does nutrition like leading up to the race and just general good health, good nutrition play a part?
I mean, I think depending on who you ask, it plays a big role. I think the longer the race, the more important it is. Definitely, you got to stay on top of the calories. If it's a short race, if it's under 2 hours, probably less of a big deal. Mm-hmm. But the long races, you got to stay on top of that. Yeah. Everyday life, I mean, I'm sure it's important. That's kind of the generic answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not strict.
Oh, you're not?
No. I don't have the best nutrition at home. I could do a lot better.
Well, that's good. That gives me some hope too. I like this. I thought you'd be maybe like this super, like only eating like celery sticks and like, carrots and grain and dirt.
No.
Twigs.
No, I probably should be. And I think I would aspire to that, but I don't.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So you got balance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think I was probably stricter about things in the early years. I probably calculated things more, and in recent years now it's more about I just want to have fun and just enjoy it. And so if I want to have a beer the night before a race, I'm going to have a beer the night before a race, but
good.
Eat whatever. It's not as...
So are you, when you're racing, are you competing for a place? Are you competing, against the other athletes? Are you more competing against yourself?
Again, depends on the race. I think I've done everything. There's some races where I've been competing to maybe try and win. And that would be like some of the shorter, smaller local races. Like I'm not good enough to win like big things. Most of the time it's been going in with like a time goal. Like, here's what I want to do as a personal time. Yeah. And then there's been other events where I've got like 2 or 3 buddies and we're going to just do this one together. We're going to stick together and just try and get through this thing. Yeah. And I've done that with my wife as well. We've done
Maggie.
Some long races together and just stuck together.
That's great. So what ones have you done? How far have you gone together?
Last year we did Pilot Mountain Marathon. And so cool. It's basically up and down and around Pilot Mountain twice. Wow. And so she and I did that and we just stuck together the whole time and had a great day of it. Yeah. We weren't competing for any sort of place or time. It was just, let's go out there and do this. It'll be fun. Yeah. And
that's great. And do you train together too for that?
For stuff like that, we did some, when things aligned and we could go out and run together. Mm-hmm. We would. Yeah.
So do you competitive with each other?
No, not really.
No, that's good. So you support each other. Yeah. Is she your accountability partner?
At times, yeah. It's funny, like one of her things before I go out and like race, or even if I was like coming to this today, her thing would be like, don't embarrass me out there. And
giving you good words of encouragement.
Video here and I'm wearing this, I've already failed at that. So I'm sure I've
that's right. 98% of the listeners listen, they don't watch this. So that's okay. Right.
Yeah, so that's her big thing, and even some of her friends joke about it. Don't embarrass Maggie out there.
That's funny.
Yeah, I can remember at times in like one of the mountain bike races I did. It was a 60-mile mountain bike race, off-road assault on Mount Mitchell. And I'm like 35 miles into this thing, out in the mountains in the middle of nowhere.
And this is mountain bike. This
was mountain bike, yeah. And I'm just miserable, beat down, like just climbing these never-ending climbs. And I was just like, I wonder what Maggie would think if I quit. And I mean, you can't quit at that point. There's nowhere to go except get back to the finish line.
Yeah, right.
But that was like the first time I ever thought about that. And that was like, what came to mind is just that, I wonder what she'd think. Like,
what would she do? What would she do? Would she?
Oh, she'd kill me. Yeah. She's like, that's
that was
not
your
an
motivation?
option. Yeah. So that, and, this last race, the 100-mile race, she pretty much carried me through the second half. Yeah.
So just back to the mountain bike for a minute. I mean, like 60-mile mountain bike over tough terrain, I'm assuming. Like, so I did Umstead, which is 13 miles, and that was a beast for me. So I can't even now that's now for me relative to that. I can't even imagine that. Is that harder in some respects than doing like, what's harder, like a marathon, just flat out race of 26 miles, or a bike ride that's like that mountain bike of 60 miles?
That mountain bike race is probably one of the most difficult things to get through from just a survivability standpoint, I think.
Yeah.
These never-ending climbs and then these really narrow ridgeline technical descents that
so it's
just
dangerous,
absolutely beat you up.
Wow.
I think probably the worst quad cramps I've ever had in my life were actually coming downhill, where I wasn't even pedaling, but I had to physically stop my bike because my quads cramped up, my forearms were beat.
Oh my God.
That's coming downhill. And so that one's really tough.
People get hurt in those things, like they've fallen off. I mean, I've seen some where you're on the edge of almost like a cliff.
I don't know if there's anything like cliff where we're going to fall off a cliff, but it is narrow ridge line, and if you do go off the trail, you're going to hurt tumble yourself a little ways. One of my buddies got an ambulance ride out of that race one time. So
oh wow. Have you gotten have you had any really nasty spills in any of your races?
Nothing that required like hospitalization. No, I mean, I've hurt my shoulder, I've lost a lot of skin, donate some blood to the trail, that sort of thing. But
it's like a badge of honor though, I guess, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It's just part of mountain biking. If you ride, and it's just one of those things, like you get into it and you just want to try something a little bit harder and harder. And you're gonna take some spills.
Is that what it is? Are you motivated by trying something harder than you did something before?
I think that's a lot of it. I think that's, I've got just a couple of friends that we just sit around and we talk about, well, what's the next bad idea?
Yeah, really.
And we just, I don't know, it's just fun. Go out and just try and see what we can do. And is that how you got to the point? So what was the order of stuff that you did? Did you do the Ironman first and then you did the 100 miles, or what? Yeah, it was straight up triathlons in the beginning. And so that first year I got into triathlons, I got that half iron distance in. I did a couple of shorter ones, and then I really just knew at that point, like, I want to do an Ironman race. And so I signed up and went out and did a marathon to just kind of prove myself that I could do a marathon. So went and ran a marathon.
What kind of time did you get in the marathon?
My goal was to break 4 hours, and I did 3:59.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had to sprint out the finish, which was awful.
That's a lot of fun.
But I'm watching my watch, and I'm like, the finish is about a quarter mile further than what my watch said it was going to be. So I had to sprint it out at the end. But so
good for
proved
you.
myself I could do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really the only marathon I've ever done, like road marathon. Besides Ironman marathons. And so then I went and signed up for my first Ironman.
Mm-hmm.
And
were you nervous going into that? Like, I mean, that's a major jump.
Yes and no. I mean, at that point, it's just, you just get this friend group, and it becomes it doesn't seem like a goal that's unachievable, because you're kind of surrounding yourself with people who do these things.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, I can do that. They're doing it. I can do it. Just have to figure out how, and just have to work towards it. So I signed up for it, and I didn't tell my wife I signed up for it.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's easier to get forgiveness than permission.
Yeah. I mean, did you think she would not want you to do it, or she would?
She was
you didn't
worried
want
about
to be
the time commitment.
The training, yeah, absolutely.
Understandably.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Understandably, and that was always for years that was a bit of a, I guess, point of contention, is just because it is a little bit of a selfish sport. I mean, you spend a lot of time out there.
How much time?
Biking. Peak weeks you can be 15 to 17 hours.
Wow.
Out there. You're either running or go out on the bike and do a 5-6 hour ride, and then you get home and then you run 5 or 10 miles. Oh, jeez. So there's a time commitment to it, and got kids and So, but then she got into it too. Yeah. So we actually did an Ironman together. We both did our own race, but we did. So she got into it too, and that made it a lot easier. Yeah. Because it became
joint training, like you're doing it. And did you do that? Did you train together and go out on rides together and stuff like that?
No, she had her friend group.
Oh, okay.
And I had mine, and
but you each had the time. You knew the other one was doing it.
Set time, and so we were able to do that. So the triathlon came first. And that became sort of a passion. And then I always had, all right, well, I got to get a time goal, and this is the time that I want to break for an Ironman. And it took me like 4 tries to finally get there. And I finally did it. And then a friend introduced me to mountain biking, and that became a passion. Now, running was always a thing throughout this. And so mountain biking was big for a while, and still is. It's still sort of probably my favorite thing to do. Yeah. But running was always there, and we kind of moved from road running to trail running. Yeah.
Which do you like better? Do you like trail running?
It's more interesting. Yeah. I do like trail running a lot better. Yeah. And
it's easier on your body.
It's easier on your body, but it can be harder on your body if you get a lot of uneven surfaces. So I think you're using a lot of different muscles for it. Yeah. But as far as impact wise, which I learned from this 100-mile race on pavement, the trail is much better.
The 100-mile race was all on pavement? The whole thing? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about this. This was the thing that just intrigued me the most. So talk us through, like, what is that race like? I mean, I can't even imagine it. What is it like?
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't know what to expect going into this. My longest run was a 50-miler, and I did that with a couple of my friends. Like, we all signed up for a 100-mile race back in September. So we're like, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and do it. We're going to sign up. We all tried to get into the local one here at Umstead. Okay. But that's a lottery. So we all went into the lottery. My 2 buddies got into that one, and I didn't get in. Oh. So I was like, oh man, like, we're going to train together and I didn't get in. So what am I going to do? So I went hunting. Is there another race that I can sign up for around the same time so we can still run through the winter together and train? And so I found this one in the Outer Banks. Same day as their race.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, same exact day. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'll sign up for that one. It's completely flat, 100% pavement.
Is it just up and down the Outer Banks?
One end to the other, which I didn't realize the Outer Banks initially were.
Outer Banks is 100 miles?
Yeah, from Kerala to Hatteras. It's 100 miles.
Oh my gosh, I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. But yeah, I looked at the map. I was like, yeah, I guess it is 100 miles.
Wow, okay. All right, interesting.
So signed up for it, and we're training through the winter. We decided to go out, and one of our longest runs was a 50-miler. One of my buddies, he tore his Achilles during that run. And then my other buddy, he was starting his own business this year, and he opened a gym, and that got delayed just to the time that it was going to make it impossible for him to finish training appropriately. So both of them had to back out of their race. Yeah. So I was ended up being the only one.
But you still did the Outer Banks one, or did you switch?
I couldn't switch. Yeah, that's not. It wasn't an option to switch. Else. Yeah. So I went and did the Outer Banks one. So the race, again, I hear stories, you try and do some research, like what's this going to be like? I've never run more than 50 miles and I felt pretty beat down after that 50-mile run. Mm-hmm. Like, well, what's it going to be?
Did you have, with the 50-mile run, did you feel like you had any gas in the tank at all to keep going, or were you just exhausted?
I was sore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that 50-mile run we did it around here and it was on pavement. So my feet hurt. I was like, well, that might become a problem.
Yeah. Right.
And, muscles are sore. But I didn't feel like we were completely out of gas and I just, I can't walk anymore. Because that's also the thing is like, I always felt like, all right, if I can't run, I can walk.
Yeah.
And I can walk a 15 or 16 minute mile. And I felt like that'd be pretty easy.
Yeah.
So I was like, worst case scenario is I'll end up walking. And if I end up walking this pace, I'm still going to do well.
Yeah.
And I mean, it turns out that's not the case, which I'll get to. But so yeah, that race, someone told me the halfway point of a 100-miler is like 70 or 75 miles.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Oh,
okay. All right, we'll see.
So the last 25 or 30 miles is as hard as the first 70, 75 is what you're saying.
That's what I heard going into it from people. And I've heard that's about where a lot of people quit, is around that 75-mile point. And I know of a couple of people that have had to quit, and it's usually around that point. So like, I have no idea what it feels like at that point. And so, going along that day, it was just a beautiful day to start. I mean, we start at 5 a.m. It was clear, stars are out, no wind. It's like 55 degrees. Like, it's just
perfect running weather. Yeah.
Perfect. And we start, and the tricky thing with this course was that pacing was a little bit challenging early. From an ultra standpoint, whenever I've done other long trail races, if you go uphill, you walk. And if you're going flat or downhill, you run.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, there's a natural pacing of where you're going to walk and where you're going to run. But when it's all flat,
right.
Well, where am I going to walk? So I have to do it by either distance or time. And so I figured, and I worked on it in training a bit, but what I started off as, I ran 2 miles and then walked a mile.
Yeah.
And that worked out pretty well. And then around mile 20 or so, I forget exactly where, but somewhere in there, I was like, well, I'm going to back that off a little bit. And then I was running 1 mile, walking a half mile, and that seemed to be a sweet spot. And I was able to carry that for a pretty long time. And I felt good.
Yeah.
My wife jumped in and ran 5 miles with me. So you're allowed to have a pacer for these races.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're allowed to have one person with you. For this race, you could have a pacer throughout the entire race if you wanted. Some races, they don't allow it until the second 50 miles.
I got it.
But this one, you could have it throughout. So it was like in the Nags Head area. Maggie jumped in and ran a few miles with me from like one aid station to the next. And my daughter jumped in.
Oh, wow.
She did like mile 40 to 45.
Oh, that's
with
cool.
me.
How old is she?
She's 16.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So she jumped in, and I had slowed the pace down a little bit at that point where I was doing it more by time. Like I'd run a minute and then walk 3 or 4 minutes, run a minute, walk 3 or 4. And she did that with me for a few miles.
Yeah.
And I was still feeling good, and the pace is still, I'm right on pace, actually under goal pace, and going along. So the weather's still perfect. And I mean, there's a slight breeze off the ocean, like coming from the side, keeps you cool. The sun's up, but then when it felt like it was getting too hot, like the clouds rolled in. I mean, it was like perfect.
Yeah.
For the first 50 miles.
I sense that's going to change.
Yeah. So like I felt great through 50 miles. Like, this is fun. I'm smiling, having a great time. And then it was getting dark. I got through 50 miles in somewhere around 11 hours. And so that's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon there. And I slowed down a bit after that, but I'm still running some. Mm-hmm. Around mile 60, and this is getting around 7:30 at night, you could see, and we're down on like the southern part of the Outer Banks where, like south of the Oregon Inlet, and there's not much down there. you got the sound on one side, the ocean on the other side. I can
I
hear the
remember
ocean, but I can't see it just because there's a dune right there. But I can hear it the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's getting dusk, and you can see off to the sound on the right, like we just see these storms rolling in, and you can just see all this lightning.
Uh-oh.
And so we're checking the phone and watching the radar, and like, yeah, this one's not going around. Like this is coming right at us. So when it was getting pretty close, right around dark, they did actually report out that, all right, we're closing the course. Everybody, get shelter.
Oh, wow.
So we've got these pacer vehicles. So my sister was driving pacer vehicle with my daughter and my wife, and so we jumped in the car at that point, and this was mile 58, 60.
Yeah.
And Maggie wanted me to keep going until the storm actually hit, and I'm at that point like, no, I just want to sit down.
You're like, come on, Maggie.
I'm tired because I've been going for 12 13 hours at that point.
Yeah.
And so there might still be a racer that goes by. She's like, look, they're still out there. I'm just like,
that guy's tough. What's
exactly.
going on?
She wanted me to keep going.
Wow.
And I wanted nothing more than to just sit down.
Yeah.
I was tired. And so we did. The storm rolled in, and I ended up sitting in the car for about an hour and a half until they said course is open again.
Yeah.
I fell asleep for maybe 30 minutes in the car.
Was that a good thing, or does that
Well, we debate about that a lot right
Yeah.
now. Maggie thinks it's a bad thing because I was still running some up until that point.
Yeah.
I think it probably was a bad thing.
Yeah.
At the time, I just wanted to sit down.
Yeah.
I was beat.
Yeah.
And I never could really get it together after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So from there on, the last 40 miles ahead of me, I just couldn't get it back together to run.
Yeah.
And I can't really put my finger on exactly why.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just exhaustion. Like nothing hurt. My feet hurt.
Yeah.
And they're full of blisters and all that, but that's not why I couldn't run. I mean, I was running with that prior.
Yeah.
But so about 9 o'clock that night, course is open again, and we're back on the road. And so we're just headed south towards Hatteras through the night. And the overnight, just the weather changed after that storm went through.
Yeah.
There was this mist, and the wind that we used to have kind of from our back is now this headwind.
Oh, wow.
And the clouds, so there's no stars out anymore. And I can't run.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the math because you have a lot of time to just think and well, all right, how long is this going to take me to finish this at my current pace?
Yeah.
And where I'd always thought, okay, well, I can walk a 15 or 16 minute mile. That's not even a fast walk.
Yeah.
I can't. If I was getting them done in 20 minutes, then that was a decent mile at that point.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, doing this math, all right, I'm doing 3 miles an hour. I got 40 miles left. I'm like, oh man, that's like another 13, 14 hours if I'm lucky.
Whoa.
So that's going to put me like 11 o'clock tomorrow.
Oh my God.
If I can keep going. Wow. And it's just like, you look at that in front of you.
That's unreal.
I don't know. Yeah. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
I'm beat. I'm tired. But I can still keep walking at that point. And so pretty much after that storm went through, Maggie set out with me.
Mm-hmm.
And from there until the finish line, either Maggie or my daughter was with me the entire time.
That's awesome.
The last 40 miles.
Wow. That's
one
great.
or the other did with me. And so that was really cool because that kept me going.
Oh, yeah.
And getting into the miles, the 70s and the 80s, those were the worst.
I can't imagine.
Because you still have a lot of time ahead of you.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, well, I'm at mile 75. I only got 25 miles left, but I still have 25 miles left. And that's going to be another 8 or 9 hours at my current pace. And it's like 1 in the morning right now. And I'm beat. I don't feel like walking anymore. The weather's now miserable.
Yeah.
And it was getting like, it wasn't fun anymore.
Were you just regretting that you even did it at that point? Or were you just, what were you saying to yourself?
I wasn't regretting it. I really just wanted to get done with it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to finish.
Yeah.
And like part of me is like, man, I just want to quit. But I'm like, I've come this far.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to get done because I don't want to have to do this again. I don't want to go through all the training again for months and months and months because I got sick of running.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to do all that again and then have to go through this again. And so like, you know, it's like I sort of can see the finish line, although I can't really.
So you felt like you had to. You just had to keep going.
Yeah. And Maggie's right there saying, you have to keep going. You're not doing this again.
Was your daughter pushing you like Maggie is too? Or was she?
Yeah. Now they're both blessed with being able to talk. And so they're talking the entire time.
Oh, wow.
Like, 'cause I don't feel like talking, and I don't talk a lot anyway, really. But they're just talking the whole time. And so they're entertaining me. And
that's cool.
And you know, my daughter's like full of energy. I think she was like pounding monsters through the night.
Oh, that's so
and
funny.
So she's just full of energy. You know, 3 a.m, and she's wired, having a good old time of it.
Wow.
But getting into probably the darkest point was like this stretch about mile 80 to 85. Around 3 a.m. It's this really narrow part of the Outer Banks, right before you. I don't even know what it's between, but it's before you get to Frisco and Hatteras.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could literally throw a stone in the Sound, or you could turn this way and throw a stone in the ocean.
Yeah.
But not that I could see either of them.
Yeah.
Because it's 3 a.m. now, and the road, it's just this straight road, forward and backward. And at this point, we can't see anything. There's no light. There's not a light off in the distance. You know, there's no sign of
no sign of life,
of existence. Yeah. And I hadn't seen a runner since 9 o'clock that night. I hadn't seen another competitor. Like you could look forward, you could look backward, and you can, like, on a clear day, you probably could see for miles normally, but I don't see a headlamp anywhere.
Were you even wondering if the race was still going on? I mean, how do you even know?
No, I knew it was going on because you would get, like, every now and then another Pacer's vehicle would be sitting somewhere. It's like, I know there's other people out here, but I never saw, I went 10 hours and never saw another competitor.
Oh my gosh.
And so at this point in this mile 80 to 85, we've got this 20-mile-an-hour headwind constantly coming at us with this mist. We can't see anything forward or back. And then because Maggie's with me at this point, and all I can see is the 20 feet ahead of me that my headlamp is lighting up.
Yeah.
And I'm just whipped. And it was just miserable. Like, I wanted to stop. And like, I don't know how far I still have to go. Other than, I mean, I can look at my watch and I know, like, I actually know the distance, but I don't know where. Like, I want to see a town. I want to get to something.
Right.
And like, you'll see a light off in the distance ahead of you. And like, okay, well, maybe that's a town. And then it gets brighter and you see, oh no, it's headlights from a car. And then you watch it come, and it's getting closer and closer. And then it goes by you at about 60 miles an hour. And you're like, wow, it took a while for it to get to us. So I know I at least have to go that far, or it'd be the other way. Like, a car would go by us and we're watching their taillights just go off into the distance.
On and on.
Like,
it's messing with your psyche big time.
And it does.
Yeah.
And
playing games with you.
Like, mentally, I think I was just broken at that point. Like, I just wanted to quit or lay down, and I wanted it to be over. Yeah. And so Maggie's walking in front of me, and she's like, I can't sugarcoat it. Like, this is terrible. Like, I have nothing good to say right now about this. This is miserable, but you got to keep going. Like, you're here, you're almost to mile 85. And, she would walk in front of me, like right in front of me, to try and block the wind. Yeah. At one point, like, jokingly, she got behind me and was pushing me. Wow. And, I started sobbing at one point. Like, I couldn't help it.
Yeah. Yeah.
because I just wanted this to be over with.
Yeah. I would have started sobbing at like mile 5. So
yeah.
I'm impressed.
It was like, I couldn't control it. Like, I've never,
wow.
I think it was just like emotionally and mentally, I just wanted it to be done.
So what did it feel like when you finally got, started getting closer, and could you actually see the finish line at one point? What was that like?
No, like my goal, like I wanted sunrise and I wanted to get to the Hatteras Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Because we did like an out and back into the Hatteras Lighthouse area.
Yeah.
And so we got to that area at sunrise. And then my daughter was with me at that point. And we went in, and there was just enough fog that as we're going in there, we could see this, Hatteras Lighthouse, which is a pretty impressive thing. You could barely see the light at the top because of the fog. It was pretty cool to see that in the early morning, and I was really happy to get to Hatteras and see the lighthouse.
Yeah.
But we still had 10 miles to go.
Yeah.
And normally, like a 10-mile run, like that was like a short training run at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's more than 3 hours at my current pace. I still have a long way to go.
Wow.
And so, we just kept plugging away. And when my daughter was with me, she actually was like, can you run a little bit? And she'd pick a spot like 50 yards ahead. She's like, well, let's run to there. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And we did that like 3 times in this 1 mile and got this 20-minute pace down to like an 18-minute pace. And we were so excited that we brought this pace down by doing these 3 short runs. And then I told her, I was like, I can't do that anymore.
Oh, wow. Your body just, I can't even imagine. Your muscles have just got to seize up almost.
Yeah. And I look back at that, like my muscles weren't sore.
Yeah.
Like they weren't sore. Like my feet were hurting.
Yeah.
I think it was just exhaustion. Like just being awake.
Yeah. For that long, right? Yeah. 20. I mean,
at that point, it's probably 27 hours when we got to Hatteras that I've been awake, moving.
Steadily moving. Yeah. Exactly right.
And so, I don't know, kept moving. And Maggie was with me the last 8 miles or so.
Yeah.
And they were all miserable. I think all the way up until the last quarter mile where I could see the finish line, I think I easily could have just laid down and quit.
Oh, man. So when you saw the finish line, you're now a quarter mile away. What are you thinking? I mean, what's going through your mind?
I did it.
Yeah.
Made it. Like, it's over. Like, I can be done. I can be done with this.
Yeah.
And so I did run. I was able to run the last, 30 yards or 50 yards or whatever it was down the finish chute. And
were there a lot of people there? Like, are there people watching, or at that time?
It was really anticlimactic. Yeah. No, there were like a handful of people there.
Yeah.
And, they give you your belt buckle. That's sort of the prize for finishing a 100-mile race. And so got my belt buckle. And then, I think part of the thing is with, COVID now, they can't really have these big to-dos. And so it's kind of like, all right, here. And then you got to kind of move along.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was there, and my sister, Maggie, and my daughter, we just went and they set up a chair and I sat down.
Yeah.
And, for about 10 seconds, I actually was like, started crying, like, because I was like, it's over. Like, I'm done with this. Like, it just, I finished some pretty tough things and just never felt.
Was that the toughest thing you've ever done? Please say yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, like from a all around, like mentally, emotionally, like, cause it plays with you on that end.
Yeah.
From just like straight up what's hard physically, skill wise, that sort of thing. No, but like from the straight up just having to push through and keep going when you're tired.
Yeah.
Cause that's what I felt like it ended up being, is this test of how long can I stay awake and keep moving.
Yeah. Do you feel like you can do anything now because you've done all these things?
No. No, but I feel like if I choose something that I want to do, I know that I can probably figure out a way to get through it.
It's interesting. So, it must be just your confidence, though, builds to know that you've overcome something like that, and you've done something that, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent of people can ever do. That just must make you realize how much mental strength you have, not just physical strength, but mental strength, because you have to have that.
Yeah. I mean, help along the way,
Yeah.
with them pushing me. Because I think having pacers in that event, having Maggie and my daughter out there and my sister and all that, like that was huge. I don't think I would have been able to, I know I wouldn't have been able to do it without them with me. And so, next year when my buddies actually do come around and do this, I'm excited to pace them. I'm not doing it again, but
I was going to ask you, would you ever do it again? You wouldn't again?
Yeah, it wasn't, it got to the point it was well beyond fun.
So, first of all, fascinating story, and congratulations. I mean, that is unbelievable. So I know you said you're always kind of thinking about the next thing. What is next for you?
About back to mountain biking now. Yeah. So I'm going to probably do a couple mountain biking things. Although Maggie was so excited, because Maggie ended up doing 38 miles with me during this race. And my daughter did 18 miles with me during that race. Yeah. So Maggie was excited that she's like, well, I want to do an ultra now. So, so she and I are signed up to do a 50K in October, and we're going to do that together. So she wants me to do a race with her. So we're going to do a 50K trail race.
That's great. Where's that? Around here?
It's Pilot Mountain to Hanging Rock.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
okay,
so
cool.
we're gonna do that together this fall.
Yeah.
So I'll help her through that one, or I don't know, she may help me through that one. We'll see.
Yeah. Good for you, man. Wow, that is absolutely incredible. I've got all the respect for you in the world, and just admiration. I mean, that's just unfathomable. And I love the story. I mean, what a cool accomplishment, and obviously came with a lot of pain, but a lot of reward afterwards, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm glad it's done. And part of me is like, I could get a much better time. Like I didn't have a great time in the grand scheme, but I'm kind of like, all right, I finished. I think I'm gonna have to say you did it. That's good enough. But, wow. Well, this has been fantastic. I know we're running out of time here, but you've got a lot of people in the audience, I'm sure, that are maybe thinking about either trying to push themselves with running or biking or do an Ironman or something like that. What piece of advice would you leave them with that they might be able to take with them? Get a good support group. Mm-hmm. It makes it more fun. Like the fact that I have friends that like we all do this stuff together. That's the reason we do it. And then, with Maggie doing it too, that makes it that much better. And I'm just hoping I can get her into mountain biking. I'm trying. That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you, let us know when you are doing one that's around here. We'd love to, we'll cheer you on and get a big group around you. So that's great. Congrats. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining today. Really appreciate it, Scott. Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We've been here with Scott Wells, ultra elite marathoner and mountain biker and Ironman. Just an incredible athlete. Great story. And great having you here to share it with you. So we'll have you back maybe some point when you do another one. Okay. All right. Thanks. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure, as always, like, subscribe, share this. Go down below, give some reviews, 5 stars, of course. And always interested in your new thoughts and ideas of topics and guests and all that kind of good stuff. So thanks for joining us today, everybody. Have a good one.